I'm Candace.
And I'm Ripley.
And I'm John.
And this is Comicsplaining,
the show where we read you the terms and conditions.
Terms and conditions valid in most lower 48 states, not valid in Alaska, Hawaii,
Or Rhode Island.
or Rhode Island. Sorry.
Well, that's going to be really sad for our no listeners that live in Rhode Island.
Oh no, we get a listener from Rhode Island.
That's not going to happen. No one lives in Rhode Island.
Rhode Island's not even real.
It's a myth.
I've never even seen Rhode Island. I
It's
want
a
proof
cryptid.
that it actually exists, frankly.
I mean, I'm already wearing something cursed. The 2020 World Tour Night Veil merch.
How'd that go?
It was great. Nothing bad happened.
Pretty good, it doesn't seem.
Yeah. You know,
Nothing bad happened in 2020.
yeah.
Everything bad happened in 2020 except the bad things that happened in 2021.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, we've got some show stuff we gotta front load here because a lot of people don't listen to the ends of things. I don't blame you. But we've got some stuff we've got to front load here after 100 and... Did we make it to 101? Is this 101 or 102?
This is 102.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
going to say.
Oh, that's right, because 100 was an X-Men episode. Okay.
Yep.
Well, we made it 101 episodes, one for every Dalmatian, and now that we've reached our goal, we're gonna have to change some things. As you can imagine, doing a weekly show for 2.5 years.
God.
We started in 2021,
I'm
2022,
gonna check.
2023,
No.
2023 and a half.
No.
I'm checking.
2021 to 2022.
No.
2022
It's only
to
been a
2023.
year.
Like, no.
I swear to God,
We
it's only
started
been a
in 2021 because I didn't have a job at the beginning of 2021.
Well, all I have to do
And
is
I did
scroll
in
back.
2022. We missed the second year anniversary because we forgot.
The first episode was January 20th, 2021.
Holy shit. Okay.
After 2.5 years of getting a show out mostly weekly,
Mostly.
it's starting to take a toll, a little bit of a burnout toll.
Well, the fact is, this thing isn't exactly making a whole lot of money.
Well, it's not only that. There's burnout, there's a lot of things we're going to have to actually adjust, and some of it is money related. We're not making money, and we've come to accept that's just going to be the way things are. That's fine. Honestly,
We didn't start doing this to make money.
Yeah.
Nah, it was always just if we make a couple bucks on the side to be able to pay for the hosting, that would be cool.
But we haven't been able to pay for the hosting.
Yeah, well, I've been able to pay for the hosting, it's just...
Because of your day job.
Yes.
What's the payoff on that? And at the end of the day, it seems like we don't actually get many audio listeners, which I do kind of understand. It's something that really lends
Should
itself
we
to
close
video. Most of our listeners seem to come from YouTube, which is pretty understandable considering the content of the podcast, why a visual element would be more useful.
Uh-huh.
So,
I can get that.
one of the changes we're going to be doing is, unfortunately, we're going to be dropping the audio version of the podcast, so we don't have to pay for hosting fees anymore, because, money is tight everywhere all the time.
Especially these days.
Yeah, so we're going to be dropping that. Second, we are going to be going every other week from now on, but effectively with the same amount of content, because we're going to be making double-length episodes, so if you want to space that out over the space of 2 weeks, more power to ya.
Oh.
It's mostly for our sake, so we don't have to spend the one of our 2 days off every week recording all day.
Right, and then the other day we have to spend running errands and
Grocery
working around the
shopping.
house and catching up all the stuff that we can't do during the week because we're at work.
And writing the podcast.
Yeah.
As if a 40-hour
Scheme.
week it is supposed to give you enough time to do the stuff you need to do.
Yeah, we are going to be, at least for now, until we get into our new rhythm and see how that works out, we're going to be putting a pause on the Patreon content. Nobody's really listening to that anyway right now. if you show interest in this in the future, leave comments down below, and we're open to the idea of restarting it. We do enjoy our Patreon content, but at the risk of burnout, it's just come time to reel back a little bit, and so comes our last... Oh, no, I forgot to mention that every week we're going to be doing both Thor and X-Men, so that comes in with the double length. 2 double-length episodes, same amount of content, effectively, every other week. Last but not least, I'm sorry, bingo is over. Bingo is dead now. Bingo is dead to us. It's just one more thing that makes it take at least a half hour longer on my end to edit the podcast, and I'm sure it adds at least that for Candace's work on the video end. So, I think that about covers the things we wanted to cover, right?
Well, let's just clarify our posting schedule going forward so people know what to expect.
Fair.
So, this week is going to be our last normal episode.
Semi-normal.
Semi-normal. We do need to talk about that. And then, so next week we are recording our first double episode, but we haven't decided if we're going to post it the week after or if we're going to wait.
Announcements on that, you can check on our social media. We're over on Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook. Probably we won't mention that on Instagram. I mean, that's just a guess, but...
Yeah. So...
That would be weird. That would be a little weird.
Yeah, and on top of that, I'm assuming our RSS feed is going to stay up for the rest of the month?
Yeah. At the very least.
So we don't have every episode with a video version on YouTube?
But we do have, I think, every episode on YouTube, right?
I don't know. We'll have to check into that. And if there's anything missing, we can just
upload it now.
Up.
Yep.
So, if you are listening on a podcatcher or on Buzzsprout, I'm sorry. You're going to have to go to YouTube.
Yeah, and I know we're probably going to lose a few people with this, and I'm sorry for that. Everything's just kind of become a lot, so we're going to be pulling back a little bit. I think we did pretty well going as weekly as long as we did.
We really did. And, it's just like, we're doing what we can so that we can keep doing the show because we really enjoy doing it.
We're just getting into the prime of X-Men, and Thor is starting to spin up something special.
The reason this episode is still semi-weird is we're going to kind of be starting up our one little bit of each this week, though that is going to be the length of a normal episode. Just 2 X-Men stories, 1 Thor story.
And that's because... Oh, we're doing 2 X-Men?
Well, it's the little one at the end of Classic X-Men.
That's right.
Think of it as a bit of a test.
The reason that we're doing that is because we went to see Guardians of the Galaxy yesterday.
We sure did.
And afterwards we came home, and Ripley had a migraine.
Yep.
I don't think Ripley's alone in that, to be perfectly honest. I think I also have, a low-grade migraine.
I had a headache, too. And we were trying to figure out what to do, because we still had to deal with the podcast and everything. And ultimately we decided that Ripley and I each had enough time to prep for 1 issue. So that's kind of where we got to this. And as a happy coincidence, it is going to serve as kind of a test for our new format.
Yep. So, wait and see how this turns out.
I'm hoping it's going to be good, because it'll give us more variety.
There's a lot in favor of this.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really the way I wanted to phrase it, but I can.
There's a lot of pros.
No, the pros is inside the book. So all the business out of the way, you guys want to tell me what happened last time on X-Men?
Fuck no.
Canada...
How about you do it anyway?
Okay.
Canada is filled with assholes.
It is, but you're missing the entire first story.
Moses Magnum died.
Moses Magnum did die.
And he was a weeaboo, and he wanted a mint inbox Japan.
And thus we don't care.
No. You guys have still absolutely let me down.
I have more to say.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Moses Magnum, died. No, there was a whole fight. They went to his volcano base and they infiltrated it, and there was stupid bullshit. And, Banshee screamed so hard that the volcano exploded.
Yep. And he blew his voice out.
And blew his voice out.
Oh, God.
Which is great for him.
That's his whole thing.
And they were stranded for a little while, and then Misty and Colleen and Sunfire found them.
Well, Sunfire was with them.
Sunfire was with them.
He signaled.
Wasn't entirely clear on that. So Misty and Colleen found them, and they went back to Japan, and Banshee went to the hospital, and he was recovering, and then they celebrated Christmas.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, they did celebrate Christmas. I completely forgot about that.
And then they got on a private plane to go back to the U.S., but...
That didn't really work.
It did not work because the plane got...
In a weird storm.
There was a weird storm, and the plane got rerouted, I guess.
Pretty much.
To
Canada. And they met Captain... What's-his-face?
Vindicator?
Yeah, that guy. They met him on the tarmac, and they were on the plane, and he was yelling at them while they were still on the plane.
And you can totally hear someone shouting at you when you're in a large body aircraft. That's a thing. You can totally hear people shouting at you.
He was just shouting at the fucking plane.
What? We can't hear you. We can't.
You've got 10 seconds.
What?
That works really well on the audio podcast.
Yeah, great job.
Me mouthing.
Yes, Ripley's just mouthing, just making mouth flaps with their mouth.
Yeah, and then...
Well, that means that they hear me about as well as the X-Men heard Mac.
Yep, and then, Scott was in a plane crash from the ground.
Yes, because some big guy picked the plane up and threw it.
His name's
Sasquatch.
Sasquatch. There we go. I like that better than the way I said that.
I don't know why you said it like that.
So, Scott got to experience a new kind of plane crash, one he hadn't experienced yet.
But they escaped, and they got into the city. What city are they in? Calgary.
You got it.
So a place most Americans probably have no familiarity with.
Yeah, so they were in Calgary, and Scott thought it would be a great idea to split up, gang.
On the other hand, how conspicuous are they as a group?
We are forgetting that we did see an actual sitting prime minister at the start of the comic.
That is true.
The father of the current one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Funny, Canada's weird.
Especially in Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they split up and went their own separate ways and got systematically hunted down. Because they wanted Wolverine back. Because the Prime Minister wanted Wolverine back. Yeah.
He was very expensive.
Yes. He cost Her Majesty's government in Canada a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. So they got hunted down, and most of them got captured, but not all of them.
No, really only 2 of them got captured.
Okay.
Wolverine got bodied.
He did, and so did Kurt.
Yep.
And Colossus?
No, Colossus was fine.
No, I get Kurt. Kurt was stunting. But Wolverine...
Kurt was a little distracted.
Yeah.
He turned Bamfing into a game, and
Wolverine got lost in old man reverie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Kurt's...
He was just listening to his inner monologue.
Yeah, but the thing is, Kurt's not, got a metal skeleton. So...
Well,
but luckily he only got...
big.
Yeah, luckily he only got slugged by North Star.
True, yeah. And to be fair, Sasquatch did do the plane crash, so...
Yeah.
When you could throw a plane, you could probably body Wolverine.
Yeah.
Yep, and then there was B stories that happened.
Correct.
There sure were.
What was the first one, John?
I have no idea.
Cocaine Bear makes a guest appearance.
Oh, right.
Oh, the hunter.
Logan was blowing some people up for some reason.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's about as much information as we got.
And then he
accidentally blew himself up.
And his clothes.
And his clothes. And he was stranded in the wilderness in the middle of a snowstorm.
And he just said, well, I guess I gotta walk home.
Yep.
We walk from here.
Like, why? About as much explanation for why he has to walk home as why he
is blowing things up. For who?
Yep.
But he's, appreciating nature. There's a hunter.
There's a hunter who saw him and decided that he was not a human, but a cryptid that needed to be murdered.
Yes. He is now effectively hunting the most dangerous game.
Yeah.
Even more dangerous than usual.
So the hunter was
the most dangerous-er game.
The most dangerous game.
The hunter was following him, and then because the hunter was following him, a bear showed up. And Logan killed the bear, and then the hunter tried to shoot him with a bow, an arrow, but Logan caught it and threw it back at him, and speared him in the fucking leg, and then left.
Correct.
And then the B story in the second issue...
Oh, God, there was a B story in the second issue.
Was the boys, Banshee...
Oh, weird
Logan,
style time.
Banshee,
reminiscing about the past.
Banshee, Logan, Kurt... Was Colossus there? No, he wasn't.
No, it was only the old men.
And Scott.
Well, no.
Well, he counts.
Kurt was there.
I mean, are we saying who's at the bar or who's in the story?
I'm saying who was at the bar because the story was they were at the bar talking about it.
All the boys were at the bar.
There's a story in the story.
Scott was a little late.
Scott was late. So they were at the bar having a boys' night, and Logan was telling a story about this time that he was hustling some people with arm wrestling in a bar
because he's just
in Calgary.
Because he's just that kind of guy.
He is.
He steals money from people because he's stronger than them.
And as he was telling this story, Banshee recognized some names in the story, and he realized that he was also in the bar.
Yeah, and for some reason they're
he was being a cop.
Yeah, and for some reason their stories take place in a stylistically different time.
Yeah, it was stylized and it was really cool, and I loved it. And so basically... Because Banshee was in Interpol.
Yep.
For some reason.
Interpol, who definitely has any kind of authority at all ever.
And he was trying to arrest this guy
thing Interpol can do.
Was doing something.
They're selling stolen goods, stolen jewelry.
Logan basically distracted the guy's bodyguards long enough.
Not intentionally.
Completely by coincidence. They got distracted, and Banshee was able to catch the guy selling the thing right in front of him, and he got arrested, and Logan defeated the bodyguards, because of course he did.
No one knows what Interpol does. They can't arrest people, guys.
And then Scott was like, I'm glad you guys learned how to use teamwork.
Scott?
And it was like, that wasn't what the story was about.
That's about it, yeah.
Scott.
Our first issue is going to be X-Men 121 from February of 1979. Written by Chris Claremont, penciled by John Byrne, inked by Terry Austin, colored by Glynis Wein, and lettered by Diana Albers and John Costanza. There's some really excellent additional content in Classic X-Men, but it's going to be really annoying to fucking read, because Marvel chose a really ridiculous way to upload the last one, or this one. They decided they were only going to upload... They uploaded the new pages and some of the old pages, but not all of them.
What?
Yeah.
That's worse.
It's so much worse.
I've complained about the app and their uploading and stuff, but this is really dumb.
This has always had a pretty janky scan, though, the classic X-Men stuff, so who else is surprised? It's going to be featuring some additional pages with pencils by Kieran Dwyer and letters by Tom Orzechowski. We continue on our travelogue of Calgary, learning that Calgary and Edmonton are arch rivals, which is a concept I fucking love.
Calgary, one of the premier cities of Western Canada, gateway to the Northern Rockies, arch rival of Alberta's provincial capital Edmonton, 185 miles further up Route 2, a big, brash, booming frontier metropolis, and proud of it.
And then we check out some more of the local sites, dropping by Stampede Park, home of the Calgary Stampede, called the greatest outdoor show on Earth. But that's for a slightly warmer time than this. You know, when the permafrost that covers Canada softens for a brief period of time.
There's even a date on this thing, July 6th to something, and I don't think it's July.
So, sorry kids, doors are closed till next season.
Scott says otherwise.
Yeah, the X-Men don't really hold doors particularly in high regard,
No.
so...
Especially not Colossus over there.
If we were still playing bingo, we would get Colossus as fuck doors.
We would absolutely get that. So, Psyche and Colossus break down the park gates without even breaking their strides as Storm just kind of flies over top. And Peter's like, why did we do that? Storm could have flown us in.
Mm-hmm.
In answer, Scott claims that it would have left Aurora a sitting duck, you know, apart from the man with a cannon on his face that she would be carrying.
Yeah.
Before revealing the real reason, which boils down to, because fuck those guys.
I'm in no mood to be gentle.
Yep. They begin to scour the exhibition grounds for Alpha Flight, ready to kick their asses to get their clowns back because the car just isn't the same without them. Their entrance does not go unobserved. It's not as if Alpha Flight expected the X-Men to just let them walk off with their friends without a fight. As they enter the park, Shaman silently follows behind them, sealing the entrance with some magic dust.
Ooh, descriptive.
Okay.
So anyway, Michael dumps a line of fentanyl across the entrance, immediately incapacitating all cops in a 50-click radius.
Yeah, we're not monetizable.
Yeah.
Good thing we're going YouTube exclusive.
Cyclops then has a trauma flashback to their arrival in Calgary and subsequent plane crash.
See? He's dealing with plane crash problems. He found a new way to have a plane crash, which is horrifying.
The man should stop getting on planes, frankly.
Take
But he
the
likes
bus.
them so much.
Take
does.
the bus!
You know, sometimes the things that we love are the things that hurt us the most.
Especially when they're planes and they keep on crashing.
When your special interest just hurts you. Meanwhile, some 2,800 clicks away, that's like 1,800 miles in Yank speak, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Lawyer Jaron Hogarth is raising hell in Ottawa after having to presumably take commercial airfare to get answers on why the Canadian government destroyed his DC-10 before it had the chance to destroy itself.
Oh, God. Did DC-10s have a problem with that?
The DC-10's had a lot of problems. Presumably, he didn't know of Marvel Canada's perma-roid rage, and the guy tells him he's gonna have to come back in the morning to file a claim because he's not dragging Prime Minister Trudeau out of bed for this. Moments later, a second group barged through the door.
Oh, you caused an international incident. Good job.
Yep, it is now a bona fide international incident because it is the Japanese ambassador to Canada. So now lawful evil bureaucrat man finally leads the entire party off to the foreign minister's office, including Jerry and co.
This is turning into a political drama. What the heck?
I love it. This is the stuff they added in, and I'm so glad they did.
This is what they felt it needed. It felt they needed a political drama.
I'm into it.
It's wild.
So yeah, apparently the Japanese had been kept abreast of the situation, with the information having made it all the way up to the Emperor. And the Emperor is not happy.
I don't think that's how Japanese politics works, but this isn't how Canadian politics works.
He can't have people who go there and say, if the Emperor says, this is fucked and I'm not happy, you don't think word is gonna make it around that the Emperor is unhappy?
I don't think the Emperor does political things actively. I think we fought a war to make sure
Well, he did save Japan. All of Japan. They did do that.
The X-Men did save Japan, yes.
Back in Calgary, Storm scouts out ahead, eventually reporting back that Kurt and Logan are chained up in the center of the stadium. Piotr's like, boss, isn't this a trap? And Scott's like, yeah, but we can't exactly split up. There are 3 of us.
Right.
We already did that, and look how it went.
Next, Aurora steps in with a word of caution. Logan's a Canadian. If he's legitimately wanted by his people, that's not really our business, which I'm sure Kurt would totally be on board with that assessment of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But Scott's still laser focused. Fuck the Canadian government and fuck Alpha Flight. The professor vetted him and Logan resigned. He's no legitimate criminal. He's our friend. That's one of the things I love about Scott. I think he's a really good example of how you can pretty safely classify someone as a lawful spectrum, but that law is not necessarily the law.
Yes.
It's Scott's law.
And that's a little lawful stupid, Scott. You're being a little lawful stupid.
Where his friends are concerned, no one gets in the way. His law is take care of you and yours first, whether that's his little brother or Wolverine. He's the team big brother. As Piotr predicted, Alpha Flight are already waiting for them. They offer to let them take Kurt and go, but Logan has run up a criminally large beer tab, so he's gonna have to stay to work it off.
That's fair. I've heard of some of these people.
Oh, well, you should have.
Yeah,
Some of
they're
these Canadians.
noteworthy people.
They are.
So it seems that the X-Men just left the rest of their friends. And
Right.
Wow.
they took off immediately in hot pursuit of Alpha Flight, leaving Misty Knight, Colleen Wing, and Sean to catch a cab out to the fairgrounds.
I realize that Sean's kind of not in any capacity to do the fighting, but
Despite being unable to scream, Sean wants to help and sprints towards the bashed down gates, but as he was once a cop, he too is immediately flung backwards.
with a thump and everything. Wow.
There'll be no stepping in to help this time. Instead, rather than throwing down, Cyclops has gone on the offensive in another way.
Scott, do you have receipts? Jesus Christ.
He's come here and he is calling out Vindicator for the shit job he's been doing and the amount of collateral damage he's left in his wake. They hurt Moira and destroyed a whole-ass jumbo jet, while the X-Men have only destroyed 3 gates and a boutique.
Those were accidents, says Vindicator.
It's like, that was an accident.
You seem to have a lot of them, replies Scott.
Scott's unwilling to give that level of sloppiness a pass. So while the leaders bicker, Piotr stands on guard, keenly watching the surroundings. And then he sees it, or at least thinks he does. North Star, ready to make a go at Psyche while his guard is down. And then it's on like Donkey Kong. Colossus uses his notorious ground pound attack.
I didn't know he had. I didn't know Colossus knew Earthquake.
Sending everyone tumbling with a mighty stomp.
We really are using the frame of the comic as, like, the wall of the comic today, aren't we?
Yeah, sorry, man. I don't know how to help this.
No, that's not you. That's not you.
Oh, God.
John's talking about the bottom of the panel
Just
being
like
the ground.
just like how former cop Sean ran into the side of the comic.
I
where
think
the
it's
wall
cool.
was.
I like it. It's very fun. Now that you pointed out, I didn't even notice it before.
Oh.
Finally, with a distraction, Kurt bamps free from his bonds, giving Logan enough wiggle room to break free, too.
Yeah, they weren't really that trapped, were they?
Nah, they were
No.
playing possum. So they all begin to pair off, with Snowbird and Storm both taking to the skies to duke it out. Mikey Man then starts pulling enchantments out of his magic bag. While he's a doctor, he's not just that, also having been trained in the mystic arts of healing by his grandfather. But instead he's turned his gifts to fighting, unleashing totems on Cyclops. Psyche sees what's going on before it's fully set in motion, calling the X-Men to form up on him instead, but it's too late. With his attention fixed on Shaman, it allows Jean-Paul to clock him from behind, knocking him out because Scott just exudes pheromones that make speedsters hate him. Kurt then tries to take the chance to even things up, teleporting behind Aurora with an intent
Not Aurora.
Aurora. Sorry, Aurora and Aurora.
Oh, yeah, that's bad. That's bad, guys.
Yeah, he teleports behind Aurora with the intent to snag her, but she too, like her brother, is a speedster, so that doesn't really work.
Yep.
They have too many of those.
Aurora's having to fight with one hand tied behind her back. With how out of whack the weather has become, she doesn't want to do anything too wild. And so Snowbird's managed to push her away from the stadium and give herself enough room to turn into, well, what it says on the tin. She turns into a great snowy owl.
Sure.
So cute. They're so fluffy.
I love them. They're so cute. You are correct.
They're not usually very smart, though.
No, but they're cute.
Well, she's a druid, so she retains her human intelligence.
Down below, Wolverine is now the one left to cut Shaman's totems down to size, incredibly frustrated with how Alpha Flight has taken them apart. Shaman slams Logan elsewhere in the fight with a gust of wind, making sure to keep the X-Men apart. He claims it's teamwork that's helping him, but I really think that's not quite a fair assessment. Alpha Flight have got them at a complete disadvantage. They've totally stacked the deck. The X-Men are fighting opponents they don't know, on turf they don't know, against opponents that have been briefed against them.
They have the home field advantage.
You know, Colossus could introduce them to a fastball special right about now.
I think Colossus looks like he's having some problems of his own.
True. Maybe a fastball special would help.
He could only do that if he could get to Wolverine.
Yes.
Yeah, good point. With that last gust, the gale force winds whipping through the air begin gusting with enough strength to shatter windows atop Calgary Tower, as Shaman's spell begins to slip out of his control.
Oops.
But it is really funny that Shaman just sits cross-legged and scoots around on the wind. Don't get me wrong, it feels like mildly racist, but it's really funny looking.
Yeah.
Is that a reference to anything? Is this a thing?
I know, he's sitting Indian style.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, yeah.
I didn't even think of that.
He's a terrible terrible indigenous stereotype.
He's a terrible representation of a First Nations person.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, in Ottawa, the situation has gotten worse and much louder because now the American ambassador is here.
Oh, God.
I'm sure they're not...
Karen's here.
Karen's here, and she is pissed off about this storm because the Americans know damn well that this is not natural. You did something, and now it's a fucking mess.
Well, if the X-Men could only land in Canada, that also probably means everyone else can only land in Canada, or at least before.
I'm not sure that follows.
Well, if the storm's only getting worse.
Well, finally, the foreign minister is like, okay, yeah, I guess we can drag Trudeau out of bed for this one.
God.
Meanwhile, Logan's aggravation continues to grow, pissed off seeing his friends getting hurt on his account. Cyclops is finally starting to get his head back in the game, but North's still keeping him busy. And because of that, he can't exactly help Colossus in his face-off with Sasquatch.
Sasquatch is holding the top of his head like you do to your little brother, and he's just like punching the air between them.
Come on, bet you can't hit me. Well,
it turns out, maybe he can.
Well, yeah, Scott tells him to use his head, and that reminds him to use some judo tricks that Scott taught him. Because when you're a ranged fighter, you gotta have a plan for when people get in close.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Scott could only do eye punches, what good would he be if he didn't have eye punches?
That's what he's got regular punches for.
Exactly.
Fair.
Aurora seems to have lost her little race with Kurt because she can't spot him anywhere, missing the poof of brimstone up above her as she daydreams about how she's a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah, this team, Alpha Flight, they're not good at this.
That's also the vibe Kurt picked up on, though, dropping down to give her a Spidey smooch.
Wow.
She then flies... Yeah, Kurt the flirt if we had the bingo going. She flies off, calling him an elf as Vector gives a victorious tally-ho!
Tip-top tally-ho!
It's getting personal with Mac Attack and Logan. Logan doesn't want to be a part of a government agency. He wants to be his own man. Mac then takes credit for his, domestication?
What the... That sounds gross. I don't know what that
Heather
is.
and I gave you a home, a chance to be a human instead of a feral wild man. Instead of the feral wild man you've been. If you're anything today, it's because of me.
Wow, that's horrible.
Yeah, Logan declares he'll stay free or die. And then the storm finally intensifies so much that even here at its eye, things begin to rage out of control. The fight continues, but through a blizzard's haze of snow. Up above, Snowbird and Storm continue to spar. Storm feels how out of control the situation with the blizzard has become, but it's impossible to do anything with Annie still on her. Finally, she thinks up a novel solution, trapping Corporal Bird Lady in her cape.
That'll do it.
Yeah, you put a bird in a bag, it's not exactly going anywhere.
Her fucking root kills me.
Yeah.
She then drops baby, cradle and all, soaring back up into the sky to attempt to Pecos Bill some weather phenomena back into shape. It's the toughest thing she's ever attempted. The last time she tried anything like it, she failed. But there's nothing else to be done. She reaches out far and wide, pulling the blizzard's energies all into herself before dispersing them off into much smaller storms, able to peter themselves out. Utterly exhausted, she sinks back down to earth, barely able to stand, let alone defend herself from North Star.
Ah, fucking North Star. He's such a dick.
He can't help it, he's Quebecois.
That's true.
Wow, I mean, we could get into it, but let's not.
And he's targeting who he sees as the strongest X-Man. And that's it for Scott. He blasts North Star with an optic uppercut, closing the distance between them before the speedster can get to his feet, ready to pound Bobier's face into fucking paste, only for Logan to be the one to hold the boss man back.
Well, to be fair, Scott is threatening to make this speedster lose some teeth, so...
They're each other's fucking handbrake.
Yeah. You know, I love that it's mutual. It's not just one way.
Right.
Yeah.
It appears very one-way at first, but it really isn't once you start getting into it.
So if you're going to ship them, remember, this is actually mutual. Their hatred of each other is mutual, but they also control each other.
Please, God, don't get into it. I will lose my mind.
He lets Scott know that Aurora's okay, but what's more, the fight's over. He agreed to go with Alpha Flight so long as they let the X-Men go free and clear.
Great. I'm sure that's gonna work out.
Oh, boy.
With the fracas over and the seal at the gate drops, though to Banshee's dismay, it's to admit an armored car. It's with a heavy heart that the X-Men watch their friend loaded up into the back and carted off.
Ooh.
The Canadians then give the X-Men a prompt fighter plane escort back over the border and a fuck you, don't come again.
Yeah, I'm not shocked. They would shoot them out of the sky if,
They finally peel off
could.
once they reach the border, and the X-Men gather to decide what to do. It's really just formalities because they're all immediately on board with the rescue plan. Nobody fucks with our idiot but us. And then it's off to the cockpit. Annie, change of course. Head for the Rockies as soon as possible. Drop below radar coverage and head north for Canada. We're going to rescue Wolverine whether he wants us to or not.
I wouldn't do that if I were you, boss.
Because there's no need for that. Wolverine has already escaped from the truck and what's more, apparently beat them here. But anyway, since we're flying, time to break out the airline drinks! I guess the Canadian government immediately replaced Hogarth's custom DC-10. Or maybe it was just a matter of putting the pieces back together since he opted for the breakaway scenes.
God.
Yes.
Fucking Tinker Toy bullshit.
Because you can definitely put a DC-10 back together.
Maybe that's where the passage of time for his escape fits in. The next morning, a bunch of Mounties have called Alpha Flight to the scene of a ruined truck. The ruined truck. The drivers of which lay in the snow, wrapped in metal from the truck's wreckage. And Mac just sighs because the X-Men are back in American airspace, and this is going to have to become a whole thing.
Canada must attack the United States!
And that's when Vindicator's informed that he has a call from the Prime Minister on line 1. And Trudeau's like, dude, just let him go. I'm tired of this whole thing. This was so fucking expensive.
At this point, it's not worth it. Diminishing returns.
How do you rate that?
2.5.
Really?
It was fine.
I guess I'll go with 3. That was... This team is so incompetent sometimes for how powerful they are.
Honestly, I'm at a fucking 4. I had a blast with that
Really?
shit. Yeah, there's so much fun, stupid shit going on, and they're all fighting in interesting ways.
Well, I guess there was some interesting character work in it.
There was that.
Okay, I'll bump it up to a 3.5.
All
They're
right.
so incompetent, though.
They had the deck stacked against them, man.
Alpha Flight?
Oh,
Alpha
no,
Flight's
Alpha Flight
so
are just
incompetent.
fucking incompetent.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, not the X-Men. The X-Men are surprisingly competent for having the deck stacked against them. But
How do you think CMRO felt about that?
2.
3.96 out of 5. They're with me.
wow.
Oh, shit.
Our second X-Men story this week is going to be the B story from July of 1988 from Classic X-Men 27, featuring the return of writer Ann Nocenti, Renaissance man, wrestling champion, writer and inker John Bolton, colored by apparently no one, and lettered by Tom Orzechowski.
I love that no one colored this.
It's
They did a very good job.
No one did. No one did a very good job.
Nobody.
A janitor sings a blues standard to himself as he does his work, filling a slow drain up with Drano, only for a giant sludge monster to attack from the sink.
Man, that happens to me every time. You know, when the drain in the tub starts to get clogged up with hair, and you gotta go put the Drano in, and then the sludge monster comes out. Every fucking time.
Yeah,
That's why I hate cleaning. I
my
don't even
roommate
like it.
actually fights the sludge monster, if you can believe it.
Brave.
Yeah, takes a stick to it and tries to fight it. Our medical bills. Ugh.
Nearby, Scott Summers leans against the counter of a nearby burger joint,
Wow.
ordering up a sack of burgers. The place is pretty much abandoned.
He doesn't look slim today.
No. Once upon a time, things used to be different, before hard times came and the chemical factory closed. Now the place is barely afloat. The few artists that live in the old factory won't even buy his burgers.
Amazing.
Whose burgers?
Big.
Bob's Burgers, Big's Burgers, someone's
Big
Burgers.
Burger.
Big
From-
Burger!
The Big Burger.
Big Burger! I mean, it's a pretty big burger, I'll give him that.
Where is this?
Somewhere.
It does
Cool.
not say.
Okay.
At a burger joint. We're back with Ann Nocenti where we get all the important details. And then he spots Jean through the window because she's a looker. More than one person is currently ogling Jean right now, as outside Wolverine is being a creep, cornering Jean like, you love him but you want me.
When is this?
I don't know. Sometime prior to this, but before the carnival is my best estimation.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ann Nocenti, giving us a story that I can't even place the time of.
All the important fucking details. And he's like, you gotta deal with that at some point or another. And Jean's like, fine, one of us is gonna leave the team. Just then, Scott emerges from the burger joint, burgers in hand, but no one gets the chance to eat any burgers because Jean's dolphin impulse kicks in.
Well, the important thing is that that burger guy got paid for his burgers.
Well, of course, it's
course.
Scott. Of course he's
Scott
gonna pay for
would.
his fucking burger.
Well,
He
yeah,
probably tipped him.
But he was just complaining about how the economy was doing bad because the factory closed.
She senses the terror of the janitor and scoops up her love triangle to go.
Amazing.
Finally,
2 boys to go.
And she finally sets them down when they see the custodian fleeing the building. Apparently because capitalism, they never bothered to clean up all of the chemicals in the factory when they shut down the factory.
You know, miscellaneous chemicals.
And now this ecological hazard has developed life, if not sentience.
There are
Right.
no rules. What, you think there's some government organization that cares about this stuff?
About chemicals?
Nah.
Just then, the floor gives way underneath Jean and Logan, though Jean calls for Scott to evacuate the residence. Down
He
in...
can fly.
Yeah. Well, Logan can't, so I imagine she'd like to help him with that.
Why?
I mean, fair point. Fair turnaround on that one, considering he's being really fucking annoying right now.
He's
Right.
being creepy in a way
And it's
that...
not like he'll die.
Also,
Right.
he's being creepy in a way that isn't really the way he's been.
Yeah.
Yeah. Down in the bowels of the plant, Jean and Wolverine disentangle themselves, deciding to head down the tunnel to check the situation out. She then gets very annoyed with Logan touching her before he answers that he isn't because it's not him, it's part of the sludge monster!
Ah!
You caught me mid-yawn.
I actually really like the art on this page.
It's kind of cool.
It's, like, dark
It is.
and moody and kind of horrifying.
I'm coming to really appreciate John Bolton's range of style.
Mhm.
This one's feeling alien.
Yeah.
Very.
Very Giger.
God. Logan's like, no big, and he cuts it down. But every time he slices one, it becomes a smaller sludge monster that he also tries to kill.
Oh my god, it's an ooze.
So this isn't working.
So it's running on Hydra rules, effectively.
I said it's an ooze.
Okay, so that didn't work. What about shoving? Jane blasts them all back, but they're not gone. The goopsters creep through the facility around them, even now.
When you hit an ooze with an attack that does slashing damage, it divides it in half.
I do not know what an ooze is.
It's a D&D monster.
Ah.
Yeah, okay. You totally fucked up my train of thought here.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, this is Giger-esque.
And Logan continues to make annoying and gross remarks all the while, teasing about how the monsters are getting close again, and talking about how he'll keep a close eye on her.
Logan, the tentacles can mess with you, too.
Honestly, I know I have a bias, but this is what I find really annoying about the whole Jean Logan thing, because 80% of the time it is not earned, it's just Logan being gross and annoying without any fucking chemistry, and Jean just being like, please stop.
Yeah.
Okay, the early stuff made some
fair.
sense. This doesn't. This doesn't track with the
No,
stuff
this is bad characterization. I hate Ann Nocenti.
Oh god, is this the future of Jean Logan?
Not entirely. It's just, I don't even like it as it is usually too much, but yeah, okay. So anyway, they emerge from the tunnel, but into a space where they're immediately closed in upon by the monsters. Jane puts up a TK shield, but they squeeze in tighter and tighter, pushing the pair closer and closer together.
Fun!
Of course, meaning Logan continues to be incredibly fucking annoying while Jane is trying to focus on reaching Scott.
God.
If she really lets loose, she'll probably blow something up. So she can't do that until she gets the all clear. And then she finally gets it. The sludge monsters close in, and they fully enclose them, pushing them together. And then Jean lets loose and blows the place sky high.
Good. Good for her.
Amidst all the flame emerges the Firebird of the Phoenix, eventually fading to reveal Jean and Logan both safe and sound. Scott worries about Jane. Logan continues to be fucking annoying. The end. How do you rate that?
1.
1.
1.
How do you think CMRO rated it?
4.
5.
2.3.
Oh, thank God.
2.23, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Fucking terrible. But if I had to read it, so do you.
That was not mid. Mid is too generous.
That was bad.
That was bad. That was very bad.
It was just annoying.
It was really annoying, and it wasn't even good characterization. Like, Logan's pushy, but it's not gross.
And it doesn't fit into the timeline, and it was just random and weird and gross.
It doesn't feel like anything we've been going through.
Completely unenjoyable. Okay, so now we have to move over to Thor, because
that is our X-Men section, so let's go ahead and move on. And can you guys please tell me what happened with Thor last time?
Yeah, so
It was last week, so you should remember.
I do remember, so Thor woke up when he was fighting Pluto.
Uh-huh.
And Pluto got beaten.
What happened before that?
Let's see.
You're gonna have to give me a little bit of a prompt because I know a lot of pieces, but I don't have them in any sort of order.
Well, the Warriors 3 were there.
Oh, yeah. So the Warriors 3 were there, and then he put them in a bubble and made them go away.
Yeah, he made them go away, and Thor thought they were dead.
So Thor got even angrier and just started going sick, nasty, brutal on fucking Pluto.
Yep, but then the fight got cut off because...
The fight got cut off because Hela showed up and was like,
oh, yeah.
I'm gonna take my ball and go home. If I can't have Odin, no one can.
Right.
Especially not you.
Yep, so fuck off and die, and then she gave him his Odin juice back.
Right.
And so that all ended, and Thor was like, hey, thing I'm most concerned about, can you send me back to where my buddies are?
Well, he thought they were dead, and then Odin was like, oh, they're actually on Earth.
I just put them there when I woke up.
It was
Right.
part of a plan.
It was all part of a plan.
In fact, this all has been part of a plan.
So they send him down. He sends him back down to Earth because he wants to be with his bros.
Him and Balder.
Yep, him and Balder go back to Earth because they want to go be with the bros, go be with the boys, get some brewskis. And then all of a sudden, a nuke happens on Black World, and then Sif and Tananile and Silas Silas Grant and Hildegard and...
That's it.
No, that's not it, because Ego Prime is also there.
Yeah, Ego Prime was also
there.
So Ego Prime shows up, and he's like, I'm gonna be more like Ego. I look like Ego now.
Yeah.
Except I have a body and pants.
Right.
That's different. That's not an Ego thing, but it could be.
He could try it, if he really wanted to.
Maybe he has already and decided it wasn't for him. This is this guy's teenage stage. He's just Ego's fucking zit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that happened, and then they were fighting him, and then he tried to zap some guys that Heimdall was assembling.
Yeah, because it turns out Heimdall had gone earlier and set up a team.
Because Odin said so, and then Ego turned them into gods and then promptly died or fucked off or did something pointless.
He just kind of disappeared.
And it was all part of Odin's plan, and everything was under control the whole time, and...
Thor was like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
And for the first time ever, he snapped at his father.
Yep.
And then it ended on the panel Exile on Earth, so I think we know where this is going.
Yeah, so this time, Exile on Earth. That was a pretty succinct explanation.
He snapped at his father, and it was wild to see.
It was...
Cathartic. I'm going with the cathartic.
Well, we're gonna see where that takes us with Thor number 204 from July of 1972. Written by Jerry Conway, penciled by John Buscema, inked by Jim Mooney, and lettered by Shelley Lefferman.
We've run into that name before.
Okay.
Huh.
We return to this moment. The moment where Thor turns away from his father for the very first time. The image of Odin rages in the sky as the rest of the Asgardians gather around their prince. Sif begs him to apologize and seek forgiveness before it's too late. But Thor has said what he needed to say, and he stands by it.
Good.
Good for him.
Enough, cries Odin from beyond the rift. He did what he found to be necessary, and his judgment is beyond refute. He is the All-Father, the will and the way, and no one has the right to tell him that he's wrong. Each of the earthbound gods turns away from him as a wave of light and power sweeps across them and then recedes. Afterward, they watch as the monsters that Ego Prime had created revert back to simple humans, the buildings repair themselves, and everything returns to normal. Thor's friends marvel at this miracle, but he can only see it as Odin covering up his misdeeds and refusing to accept responsibility or even feel sorry. A short distance away, Heimdall and Kamor watch the buildings knit back together and wonder over why they have yet to hear from their king after having fulfilled their mission. Kamor begins to ask if maybe the Allfather forgot about them, but is cut off as the two of them are sucked off across the vast space and back to Asgard.
He gave them the suck.
He did give them the big suck. They arrive in the throne room, where the Watchman bows, speaking words of devotion and fealty. Karnilla interrupts with accusations of betrayal, imploring Heimdall to ask after the whereabouts of Thor and his companions. He does so, concerned that perhaps the prince has fallen in battle. Fallen, says Odin. If only he had.
Oh no!
The grief of losing his son would be easier to bear than the rage over his rebuke.
What's up with this man's fucking 3-head?
Odin screams about his anger and how he shall punish Thor, as Heimdall, Kamor, Karnilla, and the Royal Vizier all make a swift exit.
Punish? So far he hasn't been punishing his son.
Yeah. Heimdall has never seen the Allfather so angry, and the Vizier muses that it may be largely misdirected. Not that it matters, as Karnilla points out. Whether he's mad at himself or mad at Thor, the effect is the same. Which is that Balder, and all those other idiots, are stuck on Earth, and there's nothing she could do about it.
Ah, so Thor has leverage.
From inside their hiding place, Silas and Tana note the changes in the city. Silas also notes that the Asgardians look grim, so the two go to meet their godly companions and find out what's going on. Tana takes the news of their exile pretty hard. Maybe even harder than they did, because she was hoping that they could get her home somehow. With that now off the table, and with the Rigelians surely believing that she perished on Blackworld, she will have no choice but to remain on Earth, which means she must once again take on the guise of a human woman.
Oh, God.
And this is where they come together as a group of friends that share a couple of apartments just off of Central Park.
You know, this is the weirdest sitcom?
This is my new sitcom. She activates a device that, well, judging by how it's described, I think it may have actually changed her body rather than just creating an illusion. Anyway, Fandral immediately starts flirting with her.
Oh my God. Fandral, no.
Having changed her form, Tana now will have to change her mind to become more flexible and accepting of this world, which she perceives as being primitive. Thor says they must all do so, in a way, but the more pressing issue is finding a place that they can all stay.
This really is turning into that sitcom. What the heck?
Luckily, he has an idea about that, and so the group has sought refuge in Avengers Mansion, where Jarvis attempts to make them comfortable as they each slowly work through their inner turmoil.
You know, every time Thor's been stuck on Earth, it's never been like this.
He's never gone to the Avengers.
What is Fandral reading?
I don't know. The National something.
It looks like some kind of
A journal.
Yeah, it's a journal of some kind.
It's completely silent for a time, until an alarm starts to go off. Thor asks Jarvis what's going on, but he has no idea. Fandral is feeling antsy and needs to release some tension, so he takes off down the hallway toward a set of footsteps in a mysterious shadow. Thor follows, but not close enough to keep his dashing friend from tackling the shadowed figure. He does, however, catch Fandral as he is knocked back, and urges him to calm the fuck down, because he doesn't know anything about where he is or what he's doing.
Can't believe he's gonna get in a fight with his good buddy Anthony's friend.
Yeah, you know, Tony Stark's bodyguard.
With his blade now in hand, Fandral insists that once struck, he will strike in kind. But Iron Man doesn't want any of that nonsense. Telling him, strike someone else, why don't you?
Buddy.
Introductions and explanations are made, and tempers cool as Iron Man tries to get a handle on the situation. He supposes that given the situation, they'll be crashing here for a while.
You know, you should have said something first.
Thor hopes it won't be that long, as tomorrow he will send Fandral, Hogan, and Volstagg. Wait a minute. Where's Volstagg? How could they be so blind as to lose Volstagg?
They lost Volstagg! What? How long have they... How long has this... What the... How did they...
Bring it down,
Sorry.
bring it down. Don't worry, says Tony. If he's anything like Thor has described... Iron Man. If he's anything like Thor has described him to be, he's just cowering in a cellar somewhere.
Wow.
So it wasn't entirely clear before, but I think the place that the little girl led him is the basement of her apartment building.
Yeah, I think that's...
They're in a basement, at least. And as it's been a few hours since the sounds above ceased, Volstagg asks his young charge if she's ready to leave yet. She says that her doll is still scared.
Aww.
And just like a dad, he settles down for a nap. She considers him with cold, hard eyes. She watches the rise and fall of his chest as he slips into a deep slumber, and once satisfied, she walks toward the musty shadows at one end of the cellar. There, she grabs the hand of someone tall, scaly, and robed. 3 someones, actually, as they all gather up the sleeping god and carry him into the darkness.
Cool.
Excuse me? What the fuck?
I'm into it.
Wouldn't you like to know? Normally I tend to gloss over and summarize these narration boxes, but I love this one so much I'm just going to read it verbatim. As in all things, there are degrees of depression and despair. And for one who loves as strongly as Thor loves, and has had that love seemingly betrayed by his own father's hand, the despair is great, the depression deep. And so, in the Avengers Mansion later that afternoon, as the others explore their new land and search for the missing Volstagg, Thor sits brooding, lost in dark thoughts. Until...
My lord!
Until Sif approaches. So Thor's depressed, and like many of us when we are depressed, has defaulted to passively slumping in front of the TV instead of doing anything productive.
Mood.
But Sif calls him out of the mire of his own mind, asking him to take her out and show her the city. Jarvis apparently gave her some new clothes from Wanda's closet, and she's looking super cute.
She is looking pretty cute.
It's a good fit, but from Wanda's closet.
Yeah, I think he should have asked first.
Jarvis?
Maybe he did.
Maybe he did. That's true. We don't know. The Thunder God agrees, both that she is cute and that he needs to take her out on the town. But first, he must follow suit and slip into something a bit more comfortable.
Another person.
Yes. That's right. He's turning into Donald Blake, and he has a good reason this time.
Yep.
They set out onto the street side by side, and slowly Don seems to relax, breathe easier, and even smile.
Don, you can just go back to your life. You're just a guy. You have a life here.
He'll never be fully satisfied, though, because he is Thor.
Yeah, that's convoluted but true.
They head to his medical office, which the good doctor feels he must not have seen in a matter of months. Though nothing has changed. It's the same building and the same doorman. The doorman, whose name is Lou, seems pretty shocked to see him, saying that they thought he'd had an accident or something.
Oh, come on. He's been away longer.
Don and Sif brush past him and go up the elevator as he phones ahead to Mr. Sauron. As he emerges from the elevator, Don is startled and dismayed to see the door of his office barred.
Literally with wood that has been secured in place with metal pieces.
Brackets.
Brackets on office walls?
Maybe he was away longer than he thought, he says. A notion which is confirmed by Mr. Sauron, approaching from down the hall. He introduces himself to Don, though he questions that supposed identity, saying that he is Carl Sauron, the old owner of the building. Dr. Blake asks him what's going on with his office, which should be open, as he has paid many months' rent in advance, almost enough to get through the next year. This feels impossible, but I think I'm either underestimating how much doctors make, or overestimating how much rent was in the 70s, or possibly both.
I think both.
Yeah.
Mr. Sauron calms the doctor and explains. He acquired the building recently, when the previous owners could no longer afford the upkeep, and is completely unaware of any arrangements that Don may have had with the former landlord. He invites Don to produce a copy of the lease agreement, as the paperwork forwarded to him contained no such thing. Don agrees to do this, and is given until Monday to do so.
At least when we ran a little late on paying rent, they didn't fucking bar the door, which is
It's true.
Yeah, I'm not sure that one's entirely legal.
I don't know. Hildegard, Tananile, and Silas Grant are taking a stroll through Central Park. Hildy is impressed with the idea of it, while Silas is simply basking in the feeling of summer. The same here as it was on his world. As the trio head under a bridge, they are distracted by an errant ball from a nearby game of catch. Silas promises to return the ball to the boy who lost it, and the boy runs down the hill to thank him. But once he gets there, he finds the tunnel empty. He was sure he saw 3 people go in there, but where could they have gone? Across town, Fandral, Hogan, and Balder are partying in a bar, ordering drinks and chatting up fair maidens. Well, the first 2 are partying. Balder is looking quite dour. Fandral tries to cheer him up, but Hogan knows that more than the loss of their home, he is also missing Carnilla. As they talk, a trio of ladies approaches with a question. Fandral is more than willing to meet whatever needs they have, of course.
Of course.
But first he asks a favor of them. They are new in this city and need a guide, a role which the 3 girls offer to take on themselves. With that settled, he bids them ask their question, and they do so. But it gives him pause. Is he with a group? They ask. And he's not sure how to respond. He's here with his friends, yes. But as he turns, he finds both the grim Hogan and the brave Balder to be missing. Feeling slightly annoyed at being abandoned, he excuses himself and heads for the door. Out on the street, he sees the retreating backs of his brothers in arms. And internally, he wonders if he went too far. If his dashing bravado and levity was an ill-suited performance for the seriousness of their situation. He starts to call out to them, but as he opens his mouth, they disappear. He stands there for a moment, shocked into inaction, then lunges forward, dashing toward the spot where his friends just were. Yet as he moves from the welcoming light of the bar and into the deepest shadow, he is chilled to the bone, and then also vanishes.
What is this? What the heck is going on? This is... What happened to Thor? This is what... Jerry, you were hiding this. You told a Stan story to do this immediately afterwards, to end on that note and do this.
That's the point.
It is. I thought it might be, but I wasn't sure that he was gonna double down.
Shows what you know.
Yeah, I don't know Jerry Conway.
Sif and Don have returned to the mansion, where the latter has resumed his brooding. With the benefit of hindsight, he doubts the wisdom of his actions. Though each of his friends followed him willingly, how can he know that he was right? How can he know that he's deserving of their loyalty when he is just as fallible as any man? He turns to ask Baldur's opinion, but realizes that he's not there. Sif reminds him that the lads went out to find Volstagg 3 hours ago, or so she thought. With a start, they realize that no one's there. And as the knowledge dawns on them, they hear a barely audible whisper. Something is amiss. And now is not the time to be feeling sorry for himself. Don taps his cane on the floor, transforming back into the God of Thunder, who feels there may soon be a battle upon them. They hear the noise again and venture out into the darkened hallway.
Why did he just assume Baldur would be there? Just specifically there?
I don't know.
That's where I last saw him.
Yeah.
Baldur's always with me. I can always rely on him.
He doesn't leave places I want him to be.
They venture out into the darkened hallway, and as the light from the study dims behind them, the blackness seems to take on a life of its own. It grabs them and sucks them in, pulling them down into a swirling abyss. And then, from the darkness, a tentacled beast with a face that's a little too human, but not really in a scary way, just kind of weird.
Yeah.
Sif calls it a demon hound of hell, and I think we're using the word hound somewhat liberally.
And maybe hell pretty liberally as well.
Well, maybe not as much as you think. It considers them for a moment before drawing them toward its jagged maw.
Yum.
Straining against the tendril that grips him, Thor reels back and strikes a mighty blow, which shatters the very reality around them, and the strange dark space fades.
Okay.
The lovers find themselves walking through a shattered landscape, holding each other close as they ponder what could have pulled them here. They approach a cave that emits an eerie light. The light seems to pull them toward it, and Thor knows that within it lies the answer to their questions, and their woes. They peek over the lip of the path and spot the most deadly, the most dreaded, the most evil villain of all.
Odin.
Mephisto!
Ah, that's close.
Mephisto.
He sits on his throne of flame, each of Thor's stolen companions arranged in a ring and gazing, glassy-eyed, up at the devil as he greets Thor, a most expected visitor.
Holy crap, that setup. That was amazing. I don't think Thor's ever been this good.
What would you guys rate this issue?
3.
4.5 at least.
There was a lot of stuff I enjoyed. It didn't feel like it had a lot of drive is all. And I didn't feel like I got enough of the fun stuff to make up for that.
I do think it could have been...
I did get a lot of fun stuff.
I would have given it a 5 if this was... the whole setup of suddenly going to Avengers Tower had taken a lot longer. But
Avengers Tower is...
Mansion.
Avengers Mansion all of a sudden was a very sudden jump. Oh, and suddenly we're here. We're not going to go back to Don's apartment and see how that works at first, which would seem to be the most intuitive thing to me. I mean, like, imagine, they go there and they're like, you can't get in, you gotta talk to me Monday. And then they go to Avengers Mansion. How much more sense does that make?
They just lost Volstagg.
They just lost Volstagg.
Well, Volstagg separated from them a while ago and didn't tell anyone where he was going.
Volstagg did lose himself.
He lost himself, and then they just kind of got swept up in the moment of the situation. I would give this a 4 because it is an interesting setup. I think that them slowly getting captured one by one is very interesting.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of really good character work.
I don't think we've lived inside Fandrel's head before.
I think Jerry gets these characters in a way that Stan didn't, even though Stan created them.
I don't think Stan saw them as characters beyond
he
their...
did. He did. Stan was very revolutionary in believing that the characters are people and not just action figures.
Really, because they felt like action figures in his hands.
Yeah, well, consider that up against Superman eating a bowl of soup with a bullet in it just because he has to.
Right.
Otherwise, he'll be discovered.
Right. I mean, they still had lives, but, like, it's more about the side characters, because, like, Thor always had a kind of depth and characterization, and Jerry definitely showed that he understood that. But he also showed that he understood the other characters who tend to get overlooked.
That's true. Volstagg, fat, ha ha. Volstagg, coward, ha ha.
Mm-hmm.
But not now. Volstagg, good father.
Yeah.
Volstagg, responsible.
And then the whole thing about Fandrel's, his whole demeanor just being like an act that he puts on.
We've never questioned, we've never even thought about if that's what that is.
Yeah.
What Volstagg developing a better personality, Fandrel's personality being questioned. We've never been there with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I do like getting to see the Warriors 3 broing out at any chance I get, even if mostly Baldur was playing stand-in this time.
Yeah.
He was a substitute.
I mean,
Warrior
sounds
3.
like he was nearly as depressed as Thor.
Yeah.
Everybody's in a shitty mood except for Fandrel, who just wants to party.
And he can party on Earth.
No, he's in such a shitty mood that he almost killed Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sometimes you do that.
And also, this is the first, maybe not the first time, but it feels like Thor has never gone to the Avengers for shit before.
That's
and
true.
That's nice.
We've never had, like, appearances from other characters before like this.
Tony Stark is just there.
He was just there.
And I don't think Thor knew that was Tony Stark, but...
Well, no.
No, that's his good buddy Anthony's bodyguard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And his good friend, Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Tony's butler was helping out.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, Tony's bodyguard and Tony's butler were there.
Because Tony owns the house.
Yeah.
I've spent most of the time I've read with when it's a tower, not a mansion, but...
Well, they still have the mansion when they're in the tower.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
They
it
just-
depends.
They go back and forth.
And now, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Now we gotta talk about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ooh.
Alright,
So, spoilers ahead.
Yeah.
We spoil things here.
We do.
What message do you come away? What is the message of the movie?
Animal testing is bad.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, that was a pretty clear one.
Alright.
It wasn't subtle.
That's what you come away with. That's your lesson. Your moral of the story is animal testing is bad. Okay? There's a thread of that.
I don't know about a moral, but I will say, so we saw the movie yesterday, and I've been thinking about it ever since, and I will say that I noticed a lot of parallels, unintentional, between this film and Thor: Love and Thunder.
Okay.
Because Thor in Love and Thunder and Star-Lord were kind of dealing with the same problem, where everyone they loved was, like, leaving or dying or just not being there anymore. And they had to deal with moving on through that.
I get you.
And they both had kind of this weird back and forth thing where they were going back and forth between something serious and comedy.
Yeah.
And I know we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy and not Thor. I have to say, I'm the kind of person who needs sometimes a lot of time to process something and really develop a nuanced opinion about it. And I will say that with separation of time, I don't like Love and Thunder as much as I did at first. I don't think that it entirely achieved what it was going for. I think that the serious part of the movie, where they were dealing with this, like, villain, this crazy amped up villain who just wanted to kill everything, and then the goofy parts in the movie were really at odds with each other. Whereas I feel that Guardians Volume 3, the serious parts and the comedy parts were kind of working together in a way.
I mean, it was grimmer in a way than the other Guardians films have been.
It was very...
It's appropriate to the subject matter.
Yeah, it was very heavy.
Dark.
It was dark. It got dark. But it got dark and then lightened up with comedy. And I think part of that is because the Guardians in this film really feel more like friends just kind of japing with each other.
Well, that's because they are.
Exactly.
I just ask Drax, Star-Lord's best friend.
Yeah.
Second best friend.
No, Rocket's the second best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in comparison, in Love and Thunder, the comedy, it was all like slapstick, and it felt like it was comedy being done to the characters, not the characters doing comedy.
Yeah.
And I think that making Rocket the main character of the movie was really good.
Let's be real. He's always been the main character of these movies. Just because it focuses on Peter a lot doesn't mean he's the main character.
I guess my message I come away with, my lesson of the story is, love is all that matters. That's the whole thing, and that's whether it's Yondu's love for Kraglin, and that's whether it's Peter's love for Gamora, whether she's gone or not, whether it's new Gamora's love for the Ravagers. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, the message you come away, or Peter Quill's grandpa's still love for his fucking grandson. The message you come away with, it's the animals, it's everything, is love is all that matters.
And that Rocket is a raccoon.
You're gonna make me start crying, dude. My eyes are literally getting watery.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's been this through line of family, and you're right, we are dealing now with the grief, with loss, with moving on, with the aftermath of all that.
I think that's kind of an inevitable thing with these comic book characters, though. Once they're around long enough, they just lose people left and right, and if you don't address that loss and grief, it just feels not genuine.
They have to lose people. They have to lose people, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Or else there are no stakes.
Exactly.
If everyone lives every time, it's not special. What do they do?
That's something I forgot to mention about this Thor issue that we just read, is that it feels like there are stakes.
Yeah,
there are consequences.
It does. I agree.
Consequences for Thor and the others, and even consequences for Odin.
And oh God, there's that's been part of the problem with Stan's run on Thor. What are the stakes? If everything is just undone, because this was always part of Odin's plan.
This is the stupidest chair in history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bad chair.
So how do you get up? Do you jump?
Exactly.
Do you jump? Hey, Mephisto, do you jump to get up to that chair?
He just climbs it. We got off topic. We're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy.
But yeah. It's important. If there are no stakes, then what's the point?
Right.
I wouldn't say it's my favorite Guardians film. I still like Volume 2 better. It felt more cohesive. This one was good. There was a lot going on. Not all of it worked.
It was definitely an emotional gut punch.
Yeah.
And
James Gunn is very good at what he does when he does that thing.
I have a lot of thoughts about it, and I did like it. I have a feeling I liked it more than you did, but that's fine.
You may have. I didn't dislike it.
I know you didn't dislike it, but
it made me feel a lot of things.
Everybody gets their own individual experience, you know?
Yep. No, they must experience exactly like I do.
So yeah, I think that's all we really have to say on it. We liked it.
Yeah, we did. I'm sorry I don't have a whole lot to say on that. That one just didn't hit me, man. It's not a bad movie. I liked it.
Yeah.
Didn't hit me in the emotional place I am at the moment.
Yeah, sometimes you're just not in the right place for a movie to really vibe with you. But we feel it would be somewhat remiss of us to talk about the movie without also talking about the Writers Guild of America strike.
Yep.
I hear this one could be messy.
It is happening. I will say I have read their list of demands and they seem pretty reasonable.
That's the problem. They kind of only really want one thing, and
well, I'd say they want two things if you're speaking in a kind of general way. They want to get paid a living wage, as do we all, and they also want there to be rules put in place limiting the use of AI.
Okay.
I think that it's really time that we have the president step in and have these strikers step down. This is really out of
God.
No, okay.
Fucking dickhead.
To be fair...
Fuck you. I'm voting fucking Republican if you keep running fucking Joe Biden ads on my goddamn screen in 2023.
Please don't vote for Donald Trump.
I can't help it. They made the first war in this first move in this
Vote
war.
third party at the very least.
Fair enough.
If you're gonna waste your vote.
Yeah, sure.
But seriously, though, the writers' strike, management isn't even negotiating about the AI thing. That's the scary part.
A lot of their demands that the management just refuse to even answer.
Yeah, they don't.
Which is ridiculous. And the AI thing... The AI thing would be huge because it would set a precedent across so many different...
That's always where this was going.
Right.
Yeah.
Creative industries.
Who needs writers?
It's very important to me because I am an artist and it's my dream to make a living doing art. It probably won't ever happen, but, it is my dream, and the idea that the thing that I love doing could be outsourced to a computer.
The thing you love doing can't be outsourced to a computer. A cheap imitation of what you love doing can be outsourced to a computer.
Yes, but to corporations, that's the same thing.
Don't I fucking know it.
And that's the problem. I mean, fucking... AI art is even kind of a misnomer. It's procedurally generated based on stolen work that they pumped into it. So, and this is all to say that we stand with the Writers Guild strikers.
As much as we can, considering
as much as we can.
We're not.
We're not with them, obviously.
In a functional... we're not part of the Writers Guild, but we are American, so...
We are.
No
That's true.
taking any writing jobs from Hollywood.
All right, if you're gonna pull my leg.
Yeah, sorry, you don't want any scab labor, do you?
No, fuck that shit.
Yeah, I'm not pulling your leg, I'm just telling you don't be a scab.
I don't think I have the opportunity to be a scab to begin with, so...
Yeah, we don't have a writing portfolio to work off of, John.
I don't know, they might get desperate.
Well... I think that's it. Unless you guys have something else to say.
No, I think we got most of the important stuff out of the way up front.
I think that covers it.
We're going to be back with you. We will actually be back with you next week, and then we're going to get our every other week schedule going. So we'll be back with you next week, and we look forward to talking to you then. Bye!
Bye!
Bye.